There is a war going on in Washington, overtly between America's intelligence agencies, including the Pentagon, and Trump. Trump is also at war with the press as well, stating that both the press and the intel groups are nothing but liars. Of course, Trump is absolutely correct. The press lies continually and intelligence agencies fabricate a world to justify the needs of their real clients, the globalists, the arms industry and big oil. But things are even worse now. We have a president who calls them out for their lies and then turns around and lies more than all of them combined. There is no government, only liars accusing each other of lying while doing what has always been done, stealing everything that isn't nailed down, and Trump looks like he is setting a new record for that as well. There is strong real-world evidence that intelligence agencies, including some directly tied to the Pentagon, like the DIA, have collectively stripped President Trump of his security clearance. We know this officially happened to Lieutenant General Mike Flynn after he was fired by Trump. The flurry of blaming and half-hearted defenses of Flynn by President Trump after his meetings with Netanyahu in Washington this week are a subterfuge. Flynn had to go. His opposition to Netanyahu's planned upcoming invasion of Lebanon, which would require not only Saudi finance but considerable logistics and even air support from the U.S., is what really brought about the firing of Flynn. The orchestrated press attacks on Flynn originated from within the all-powerful Israel lobby, who has presented Trump with U.S./Israeli dual citizen, Stephen Feinberg, owner of disgraced private military contractor DynCorp, is to oversee all American intelligence efforts worldwide. We are also told that as agencies such as the DHS and FBI operate both outside the U.S. and domestically, Feinberg will have more government employees and more guns under his command than the Secretary of Defense, but without the nasty accountability. Feinberg's company, DynCorp, accused of human trafficking in Bosnia, is contracted by Saudi Arabia to train and supply al-Qaeda and ISIS in Syria and Iraq, from facilities in Jordan and the Saudi Kingdom, in concert with the Gulf states. Flynn was officially declared a security risk when questions arose about his behavior for lying to the FBI when questioned about conversations he had with Russian officials. As of this writing, America's nuclear command structure is likely compromised, and presidential briefings, traditionally where intelligence agencies lie anyway, have been ended. Seemingly a small thing but in reality a massive intelligence disaster, happened on February 13, 2017, when Trump along with advisor Steve Bannon, now fired Mike Flynn, Japanese President Abe, wives, restaurant staff and fellow diners, took part in what was an ad hoc emergency meeting of the National Security Council. North Korea had just held a missile test violating Japan's airspace. Trump reacted with considerable drama, showing off for the crowd while he phoned military leaders and put the U.S. on high alert. Let's get some context on what the real problem with airing dirty laundry is. Back during the Cold War, the only way the U.S. could get close to observing Soviet leaders under stress was from high-value CIA assets, of which there were few. America waited each year from the May Day parade to watch body language and position on the review stands and then wrote copious reports extrapolating each nuance into volumes. Here, Trump gave any potential enemy the family jewels. Trump already has a presidential advisor, Jared Kushner, who openly works for Israeli intelligence, and lifelong business associates like Felix Sater, who are among the world's most dangerous criminals. The next huge gaffe by Trump involves his knowledge of the FBI's investigation of Flynn's Russian contact, which officially began with an interview 2 weeks before. It is alleged that President Trump was both knowledgeable about the Flynn phone calls and the also alleged perjury by Flynn during his FBI interview. In the kind of what did Trump know and when did he know it situation that brought down the Nixon presidency, we now quite probably have a smoking gun that could bring down the Trump presidency. Trump, minimally, had knowledge of a criminal act by a White House official who was allowed to keep his security clearance. This is a felony. That many more similar and related acts of conspiracy, obstruction of justice, perjury and endless mail and wire fraud can be alleged as well, and American law allows for piling on charges like this based on any single incident, and we are talking about hundreds of incidents here, makes actions by agencies like the CIA against Trump supportable to key members of Congress. Thus, Trump's daily accusations of leaks and being kept in the dark are falling on deaf ears. Background. Let's stop for a moment and look at the what and why of this issue. All along, Trump contact with Russia has been technically a violation of law, even treason. The only previous such contact, as that nearly all Trump associates currently stand accused of, was in 1980 when it is alleged that vice presidential candidate George H.W. Bush flew to Paris and met with Iranian officials there. When former CIA agent Richard Brennicky came forward, testifying about the meetings and deal with Iran, which later led to the conviction of 47 Reagan White House officials including Defense Secretary Caspar Weinberger, Brennicky was charged with fabricating the information. Brennicky was charged with perjury for leaking the information, and Brennicky's associate, former Luftwaffe pilot and co-operational chief of the CIA's drug smuggling operation known as Air America, Heiner Krupp, was convicted of bank fraud. The bank fraud charges against Krupp were for daily banking activities laundering narcotics cash into CIA operational accounts. Both were silenced by misuse of the Department of Justice to save Reagan and Bush from impeachment, as jailing whistleblowers or leakers, as those who often as not are keeping their oaths of office are called, is what keeps Washington going. Trump, whose election was largely enabled by hacking and leaking with more than a bit of fake news and fabricating thrown in as well, is now on his own rampage against, you guessed it, fake news and fabricating and leaking as well, by others anyway. Over the cliff? Only a couple of dozen days into the Trump regime and terms like chaos and coup and dictatorship are heard everywhere. What isn't being heard is redress or correction, and nobody is turning to institutions or the Constitution with its checks and balances. All that is gone. What is left is a Congress that has, through feathering its own necks, lost the respect of the American people, as Trump points out rather eloquently from time to time. The problem is, those in Congress who stand with Trump are those he has fished from that swamp he claims he wants to clean out, the worst of the worst. Others, who picture themselves as trusted leadership, though trusted by whom is never asked, are in actuality the survivors who have entrenched themselves in power, typically by milking election cash from the corrupt elements that lead them to betray their offices decade after decade. Another problem there, of course, is that Trump himself, with his record of money laundering for organized crime, his bankruptcies, his continual legal problems for fraud and worse, parallels everything that is bad about government. With a population deeply divided, exploited on one hand by fear and hatred, on the other, if you chose to believe this, by a wish to live in a just world with equal opportunity for all, that in itself represented as treasonous and criminal, there is little left to save.